Chicken embryo reveals sex during pregnancy is the biggest no-no ever. Here we have an egg that has an 8-day-old chicken embryo inside. I'm candling the egg to make sure there's a live one. Now I'm going to crack the egg in two and cut off the blood supply and food supply and leave the embryo on the air sac side of the shell so we can observe the only comparison I've been able to come up with, the effect of maternal orgasm during pregnancy. I am not aware of any clinical research ever done to monitor the fetal response to maternal orgasm. The moral and legal issues have kept researchers at bay. We do have the technology with 4D ultrasound to actually monitor the effect of maternal orgasm by watching the facial expressions and the body movements of a developing fetus. But because this is like the holy of holies, nobody's dared to go there. So this little chicken embryo is showing that there is actually flow taking place between in and out of the umbilical cord. It's not a passive process. The fetus is actively involved in drawing nutrients in and through the cord. In the human umbilical cord, there's 2 arteries in the vein. It's different in the chicken where there's the food supply is from the yolk and then the blood supply comes from the air sac, so it's a little different. But I think the action of the chicken embryo is similar to what a human baby will experience when its blood supply is temporarily cut off during maternal orgasm. I've spent 14 years remembering my own in-uterine suffocation memories, which you can view on my website, www.myotherhalf.blog.com. I'd encourage you to do that for the rest of the story. Simply put, our inner 9 months is a reflection of our outer 90 years. There are 52 generations of cellular division from conception to an 18-year-old adult. 40 of those happen in the womb. The earlier on, the more money put into a particular activity in the outer world, the earlier it is in the cellular division. Conception being the most dominant one. The Olympics are a classic reflection of conception, where the gold medal is the egg. The dominance of fetal memories is evident in the aging process as people in rest homes gradually succumb to the fetal position, because this is the dominant memory which we are all subject to. This little baby chicken embryo is showing the in-uterine breathing mechanism. The fetus is actively involved in all the diaphragms and all the body parts and muscles. Everything is coordinated for one purpose and one purpose alone, and that's to keep the two-way flow going in the umbilical cord, where in the human it's the 2 arteries taking away the old and the 1 vein bringing in the new blood along with the nutrition. So the only control the fetus has is how hard it sucks and how hard it pushes. So when there's a challenge in that flow, you'll see how this chicken embryo begins to suck harder and push harder and more frequently, to show that there are survival mechanisms in place to keep the fetus alive even during the hard times, which is being imposed here, which is similar to the hard time being imposed when the uterus is contracted during orgasm. Personally, I loved sex during pregnancy. I have 4 children, and I imposed on them the same type of suffocation memory that was imposed on me, because that was my first experience with the love energy when there was 3 people involved: mom, dad, and the baby. This is what leads to extramarital relationships. As 2 people get married and have sex, it brings up the memories of when there was 3 people involved. And this is the underlying mechanism for divorce, the splitting up of our families, as the disobedience to the law that we should not have sex during pregnancy, and we manifest it in our society by many different challenges. When we're married and we start to have these memories come back up, and we have children, we experience the hard times that we experienced in the womb, so we'll draw someone to us that had the same pain-pleasure programming that we had. That's why pain and pleasure come drive together in our relationships. During maternal orgasm, there's an increase in CO2 and a decrease in oxygen in the fetus, because there's nothing new coming in and nothing old going out. Same shit, different day this is where this attitude of same shit, different day comes from. I've talked to a number of women who report increased fetal movement after sexual intercourse. Normally, if a baby just sleeps, it doesn't move around except for slightly, but the increased fetal movement to me would indicate that the fetus is under stress, just like this little chicken embryo is, and it's working harder to get the nutrients to flow in and out of the umbilical cord. These are the first impressions that we had of love, and so we manifest these same type of in our relationships. I believe the mechanisms of cancer are shown here by this little chicken embryo, because when it doesn't have any source of nutrition, it turns on itself and digests part of itself, which would account for the mechanisms of cancer, very simply. Our eating disorders. Look at all the fast food restaurants, people who stockpile foods. Look at the issue of hunger pain on the planet. No matter how hard you work, how hard this little embryo is working, there's no food available. Or maybe during orgasm there is some blood flow, but you have to work really hard, like this little baby is, to get anything to flow in and out. You may think this is cruel, but consider that possibly people who are criminals, who torture people or abuse people or terrorists, are merely acting out on the memories imposed on them in the womb over the centuries since the beginning of the practice of sex during pregnancy. None of God's other creatures engage in sex during pregnancy. I challenge all those with the power and the equipment to monitor the effect of sex during pregnancy, specifically maternal orgasm on the developing embryo, to use this technology God has given us to show that we are individually responsible for all of the challenges we have on this planet. We can't blame it on God and the devil anymore. We did it to ourselves. Look at the Medicare system or the Social Security. We want something for nothing. That's the same as we had in the womb. Everything was supplied for us. And so I'd like you to say goodnight to the star of our show, the embryo. And just remember this, that we are condemned to repeat that which we can't remember. Conception days 3 or 4 is the mass unconsciousness, and we keep repeating this on the world stage. History does repeat itself. So I want to thank this little chicken embryo who has given all, and I hope that somehow, somewhere, somebody that watches this will move on it and act and take action and let this fetus, let this little embryo and all the aborted fetuses have their say instead of just keep aborting them. Almighty I am. So I'm talking into this thing and I want to know if it's working. So